Enraged by this, Nathan Mayer Rothschild swore that someday he or his descendants would destroy the Tsar Alexander I's entire family and descendants. Unfortunately, he was true to his word, and 102 years later, Rothschild-funded Bolsheviks would act upon that promise. Interestingly, world government fanatic and Ashkenazi Jew Henry Kissinger did his doctoral dissertation on the Congress of Vienna. In 1816, the American Congress passes a bill permitting yet another Rothschild-dominated central bank, which gives the Rothschilds control of the American money supply again. This is called the Second Bank of the United States, and it is given a 20-year charter. The British war against America therefore ends with the deaths of thousands of British and American soldiers, but the Rothschilds get their bank. In 1818, following the French securing massive loans in 1817 in order to help rebuild after their disastrous defeat at Waterloo, Rothschild agents bought vast amounts of French government bonds, causing their value to increase. On November 5th, they dumped the lot on the open market, causing their value to plummet and France to go into a financial panic. The Rothschilds then stepped in to take control of the French money supply. This was the same year the Rothschilds were able to loan £5 million to the Prussian government. In 1821, Kalman, or Karl Mayer Rothschild, was sent to Naples, Italy. He would end up doing a lot of business, as with the Vatican, and Pope Gregory XVI subsequently conferred upon him the Order of St. George. Also, whenever the Pope received Kalman, he would give him his hand rather than the customary toe to kiss, which showed the extent of Kalman's power over the Vatican. In 1822, the Emperor of Austria made the 5 Rothschild brothers barons. Nathan Mayer Rothschild chose not to take up the title. In 1823, the Rothschilds take over the financial operations of the Catholic Church worldwide. In 1827, Sir Walter Scott publishes his 9-volume set, The Life of Napoleon, and in Volume 2 he states that the French Revolution was planned by the Illuminati Adam Weishaupt and was financed by the money changers of Europe, the Rothschilds. In 1832, President Andrew Jackson, the 7th President of the United States from 1829 to 1837, runs the campaign for his second term in office under the slogan, "Jackson and no bank." This is in reference to his plan to take the control of the American money system to benefit the American people, not for the profiteering of the Rothschilds. In 1833, President Andrew Jackson starts removing the government's deposits from the Rothschilds-controlled Second Bank of the United States, and instead deposits them into banks directed by Democratic bankers. This causes the Rothschilds to panic, and so they do what they do best, contract the money supply, causing a depression. President Jackson knows what they are up to, and later states, "You are a den of thieves, vipers, and I intend to rout you out, and by the eternal God, I will rout you out." In 1834, the Italian revolutionary leader Giuseppe Mazzini is selected by the Illuminati to direct the revolutionary program throughout the world, and would serve in that capacity until he died in 1872. In 1835, on January 30th, an assassin tries to shoot President Jackson, but miraculously both of the assassin's pistols misfired. President Jackson would later claim that he knew the Rothschilds were responsible for that attempted assassination. He is not the only one. The assassin Richard Lawrence, who was found not guilty by reason of insanity, later bragged that the powerful people in Europe had hired him and promised to protect him if he were caught. The Rothschilds acquire the rights in the Almaden quicksilver mines in Spain. This was at the time the biggest concession in the world, and as quicksilver was a vital component in the refining of gold or silver, this gave the Rothschilds a virtual world monopoly. In 1836, following his years of fighting against the Rothschilds and their Central Bank of America, President Andrew Jackson finally succeeds in throwing the Rothschild Central Bank out of America when the bank's charter is not renewed. It would not be until 1913 that the Rothschilds would be able to set up their third central bank in America, the Federal Reserve. And to ensure no mistakes are made this time, they will put one of their own bloodline, Jacob Schiff, in charge of the project. Nathan Mayer Rothschild dies, and the control of his bank, N.M. Rothschild & Sons, is passed on to his younger brother, James Mayer Rothschild. In 1837, the Rothschilds send one of their own, August Belmont, an Ashkenazi Jew, to America to salvage their banking interests defeated by President Andrew Jackson. In 1840, the Rothschilds become the Bank of England's bullion brokers. They set up agencies in California and Australia. In 1841, President John Tyler, the 10th President of the United States, from 1841 to 1845, vetoed the act to renew the charter for the Bank of the United States. He goes on to receive hundreds of letters threatening him with assassination. In 1844, Salomon Mayer Rothschild purchases the United Coal Mines of Vikovich, an Austro-Hungarian blast furnace company that would go on to be one of the top 10 global industrial concerns. Benjamin Disraeli, an Ashkenazi Jew who would go on to become British Prime Minister twice, the only admitted Ashkenazi Jew to do so, publishes Coningsby, in which he characterizes Nathan Mayer Rothschild as the lord and master of the money markets of the world, and of course virtually lord and master of everything else. He literally held the revenues of the southern Italy in pawn, and monarchs and ministers of all countries courted his advice and were guided by his suggestions. In 1845, the great American patriot Andrew Jackson, 7th President of the United States, dies. Before his death, he is asked what he regarded as his greatest achievement. He replies without hesitation, "I killed the bank." This is in reference to the fact he banished the Rothschilds' Second Bank of the United States in 1836. Jacob James Mayer Rothschild, who by now had married his niece, Betty Salomon Mayer Rothschild's daughter, now known as Baron James de Rothschild, wins the contract to build the first major railway line across the country. This was called the Chemin de Fer du Nord and ran initially from Paris to Valenciennes, and then joined with an Austrian rail network built by his brother and wife's father. All sounds a bit sordid, doesn't it? Salomon Mayer Rothschild. In 1847, Lionel de Rothschild, now married to the daughter of his uncle, Calvin Carl Mayer Rothschild, is elected to the parliamentary seat of the City of London. A requirement for entering Parliament was to take an oath in the true faith of a Christian. Lionel de Rothschild refused to do this as he was Jewish, and his seat in Parliament remained empty for 11 years until new oaths were allowed. He must have been an invaluable representative for this constituency, bearing in mind he could never vote on any bill as he never entered Parliament. I wonder how he managed to keep his parliamentary seat for 11 years. In 1848, Karl Marx, an Ashkenazi Jew, publishes the Communist Manifesto. Interestingly, at the same time as he is working on this, Karl Ritter of Frankfurt University was writing the antithesis which would form the basis for Friedrich William Nietzsche's Nietzscheism. This Nietzscheanism was later developed into fascism and then into Nazism and was used to foment the First and Second World Wars.